Hi, and welcome to Simply Happy Conversations. I'm Narelle King, and in this Simply Happy conversation, I'm talking with Natalie, a wellness and mindset coach, yoga and meditation teacher for Own Your Health Collective. Natalie shares the story of how Own Your Health Collective started with her business partner, Lisa. She also talks about the work that they are doing in the area of perimenopause to support women to see their whole health as the cornerstone to achieving personal goals and living their best life. She also shares some useful tips for supporting yourself during perimenopause. This conversation is a video recording that you can also watch on YouTube. Let's jump into this Simply Happy guest conversation. Welcome to Simply Happy Conversations. I'm Narelle King, wellness and organisational coach and Yin and Nidra yoga instructor. This podcast will help you create more time using organisational strategies so that you can start to simplify your life and prioritise your health. I'll be sharing conversations with other health and organisational experts and solo episodes with tips to help you simplify your life and prioritise your health. So today on Simply Happy Conversations, I have with me Natalie. She is a mindset and wellness coach as well as a yoga and meditation teacher, and her business is Own Your Health Collective. And she is here helping women to embrace different stages of their life, in particular perimenopause. So welcome, Natalie.
Hello, Narelle. Thank you for having me.
Oh, no, thank you so much for joining me. I did have Lisa last season, so it's so nice to have you join us and hear your side of the business, because it's two completely different areas that you're focusing on, but then you come together to complement each other so nicely. So maybe start by telling us a little bit about what you like to do in your own free time.
Yes, and I know it's not a typical free time activity, but marathon running is my activity that I love to do in my free time. And it's quite funny. I had this joke with my husband does triathlons, and we always have this joke that, you know, why is our me time something so strenuous like triathlon or marathon? But for me, it's my meditation, and it's also just helps me to organize my day. I find that when I'm training for a marathon, I'm just so much more disciplined in my everyday life. So, yeah, it's just such a game changer for me.
So which one of you is in training at the moment? Or you both are?
Me.
You are?
No, me. My husband just did the Cairns Ironman in June, and so he sort of has, you know, priority when he's doing his, and then we tag team. But look, we still run and exercise. We just take in turns on who has priority. First dibs on the early runs.
Yeah. So what are you training for at the moment?
So I'm training for Melbourne Marathon, which is in October. Yeah.
So my husband's done a few marathons. I don't even know how many now. That was a lot back in when my daughter was born. So she's 13 now. So maybe when she was 2, he started doing them. And then his knees aren't coping anymore. So now he's changed to kayaking, and he did the Murray Marathon this year instead. So I know the training, and being a partner of someone who trains, and you can't both be doing it at the same time with kids anyway. It's quite,
definitely not.
It's quite strenuous and takes up a lot of time, isn't it? It's more around the time factor.
It is. It definitely is. And I'm very grateful that, my husband and I, we both understand what our, you know, activities do for us in terms of, you know, the person we are and who we want to be, and, you know, showing up for our family and for our friends. So I'm very grateful. And even on the flip side, my daughter, I did my first one before I became pregnant with her. And so she just sort of knows no different in seeing us do our activities, and she gets right behind it too. So, yeah, it's good.
And have you got a favourite
marathon?
Yeah.
So I did New York and Chicago a few years ago, and I'd probably say New York, actually. Yeah, it was just an incredible experience with 50,000 other runners, over 1 million people spectating from start to finish. It was just like a rock star moment, people calling out your name and, having a great time.
Oh, wow, that's amazing. And was the training what was the conditions like when you got there? Was it perfect? Your training worked well?
It was raining. I have to say, every marathon I've done, apart from Chicago, actually rained. So, it was raining. But, you know what? I find that cools me down. I overheat sometimes when I'm running. So the rain's a welcome relief.
Yeah. Because Melbourne, you can get anything, can't you? It could be the hottest day or it could be nice and cool.
Yes, definitely. It's just the luck of the draw. So I tend not to worry about what I can't control, especially with the weather, and just, what'll be will be, and we'll adapt.
Yeah. So tell us about Own Your Health, collective, and how it came about with you and Lisa.
Yeah, so we were both working in our own respective businesses, coaching, and had a really strong focus in supporting women in particular around health and well-being. And for me, I come into business after having my daughter and having my own stressful moment at work that I was seeking a change, and I, managed to support myself and use coaching for myself as well. And I thought, what, I really want to help other women because I've just learnt so much that, I have to get this information and this education out there. So we met through a mutual friend, and really from there, we just hit it off. I said we went on a blind coffee business date and just connected from the beginning, and really, learnt that we come from different health skills and knowledge, but very complementary. And, that whole message around whole health was something that really resonated from the word go. And we were able to just, build on that. And, we solidified the business in early 2020. And it's been great just seeing it evolve and grow from when we first started.
Oh, and you started right at the start of the pandemic then, wasn't it?
Yes. We had some great goals and aspirations for that year, and then they were all quashed, mainly because my daughter as well started school that year. So, we were thrust into homeschooling and just trying to navigate, not just the new world of school, but then, then homeschooling. So we did a bit during that year, but also, we had to also be mindful of our own health and stresses and managing that. But it allowed us to pivot and really niche into where we are today, which, is sort of the silver lining for us is what I say.
So did you start off focusing on perimenopause from the start?
No, we didn't. No, we were starting very much from that general health and well-being, and really focusing on whole health. So supporting individuals and in workplaces around that physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual health. But then we just felt like we were still missing something. And through our own experiences, 2020, I was experiencing, a great deal of stress. And, I got to the point where I'm like, hang on, I work in this space supporting other people around stress. How can I be so stressed? And I had to have a level of kindness to myself, and say, look, we have never been through anything like this before. The demands on you are so far exceed anything you've had before. But what I was seeing was changes in menstrual cycles and, really having different things happen there. And Lisa, obviously having her own perimenopause experience as well, we just kept coming back to ourselves thinking, what? We're not educating or looking at the lifestyle elements for women and men separately, because particularly as we get older, we're different, our performance, our energy, the way we feel changes. And so, that allowed us to really reflect on our own personal experience and then, educate ourselves and build our knowledge around that space to then say, okay, let's really niche into this area. It started with menstrual health to begin with, and then perimenopause and menopause. And in fact, it was menopause because people didn't really know about perimenopause, just organically grew from there.
Yeah. So maybe tell us a bit about what is perimenopause for those who maybe haven't listened to previous episode where Lisa talks about it, so that they get a bit of a snippet, because I know for me, I learned it from your podcast as well.
Oh, fabulous. No, that's good. And in all honesty, I didn't know what perimenopause was until a few years ago myself, actually. And I still have those many conversations with friends and women that I talk to as well. So essentially, perimenopause is the phase before menopause. And menopause, probably a good place to start, is just one day. And it is the 12-month anniversary of our last menstrual period. And we don't know that it's going to be our last menstrual period, but if we're, tracking our cycle and aware of the changes we're going through in our body, we do come to know that, okay, 12 months, this is my one day of menopause. Perimenopause can last anywhere from 7 to 10 years. And it's the changes, the hormonal changes in our body, and really where we experience, the plethora of symptoms that we can go through. First main symptom is a change in our menstrual cycle. That we might see that we might have a longer cycle, we might skip a period, we might have, continuous bleeding for a period of time. And that's usually the first sign that, okay, there's some hormonal changes going on in our body. And then, as we can get closer to that one day of menopause, we can start to experience more and more symptoms. But it is that lead up into that one day of menopause. And it's, simply the changes that our body naturally go through in preparation for that one day.
Oh, thank you so much for clarifying that, because I'm sure there's people listening who are like, oh, I didn't know that. That's something they're just learned, especially if you're not at that stage of life yet. You don't know, do you? Unless you've had a mother that shared that with you.
Yeah, look, definitely. And, I'm 40, I'm not in perimenopause, but I know I'm a lot closer to it than I am away from it.
Yep.
And, I am noticing subtle differences and changes in my body. And, and having that knowledge that I've had has supported me in understanding, okay, you know what, this is actually quite normal. And, a lot of the time we think about menopause as, that much older, grey-haired woman, when in actual fact, we start to experience changes, late 30s, early 40s, right through up until mid 40s and 50s. So it's, there's a good chunk of our lifetime that we do experience changes. And, part of my messaging with Lisa is the more we know about our body and the more we're connected to our body before we come into that phase of life, the better and smoother the transition can sometimes be, and really more so around that level of acceptance as well. Big part of it is accepting that we're going through this life change. So, it's a key point to really know our body before we get to that phase of life.
Yeah, that's beautifully put. I really, really like how you've put that, being prepared going into that stage, because I wish I had been prepared and known what I was about to, enter into. But I'm so grateful that whoever, I can't even tell you who it was I listened to, and you were both being interviewed on their podcast, that I went, oh my gosh, where's that podcast? I need to follow these girls. And then I binge listened to every episode that you'd put out. And so, I definitely highly recommend people going and listening to your podcast for both your knowledge as well as the guests that you interview, because you get a real sense of the story of everyone is different. And they all have different experiences. So I know for me that I picked up some of the things that I was like, oh, that must be perimenopause, that symptom as well. Whereas I didn't know that previous.
Yes, very true. And we've been very grateful to have you coming up on our podcast as well, which we're excited for.
Oh, no, I can't wait. So tell us a bit about then your service and what you do and what you bring to Own Your Health Collective.
So part of what I bring is very much around the mindset and the broader well-being element. So I'm a yoga and meditation teacher, and, I love everything about the brain and the mindset, and, and it's been my marathon running, which has been a great introduction to that over the years, just around how powerful we are in our mind and using our mind to be able to support our life and our health and our well-being. So I really support, from an individual coaching element around mindset, boosting confidence, stress management, a lot around confidence and really, acknowledging that, yep, there is confidence within us. And, even through this phase of life, as much as we feel like we've lost confidence, we can still instill that and build upon that. And where yoga and meditation has really been a game changer for myself personally, but also with my clients, is the opportunity to draw within and really connect thoughts to feelings and to actions. And whenever I'm, running a workshop or with a client, I always give that equation around, your thoughts equal your feelings, equal your actions. And what I love about yoga and meditation is that it allows us to come out of our head, out of our mind, and into our body and really feel into what we're feeling, the emotional, the sensation responses to any situation that we find ourselves in.
Yeah, I love that. And that's the same. I love that it tunes into, maybe it's not even labeling it as an emotion, but just that sensation. Where is that sensation in your body that you're feeling, and just connecting that awareness, isn't it? Which, it's almost like which they are doing in schools now, but we could have done more and can continue to add more into education so that, students are growing up with this knowledge that we definitely didn't have as children anyway. It wasn't talked about, and it wasn't, unless you obviously had a yoga teacher as a mum, it wasn't within our school system, was it? An accessible.
No, it definitely wasn't. And, and even today, that's probably why a lot of my friends or, sort of our age group, are sort of thinking, oh, meditation, geez, I can't meditate. I can't switch my mind off or not think, or I couldn't do yoga. I don't look like a Lululemon model. So there's misconceptions about what they are. So there's a whole relearning that, we get to give to our generation, which I think is exciting. But yeah, nice to see that more of this is coming through the education system. I really value emotional intelligence, and I think there's that's another great topic that could really come into education systems as well.
Yeah, definitely. So something you touched on I really love, and I've listened to you talk about it in previous episodes, is maybe even touch on it, is about the confidence and how perimenopause can really affect your confidence, or for some people in particular.
Yeah, look, and a lot of it comes down to, it's those physical changes. So, the hot flushes, the brain fog, we feel that, all of a sudden we've been confident in being able to express and talk and remember things, particularly in the workplace, to then all of a sudden, feel like you're losing your mind, and, how come you can't remember, the talk or the speech that you're going to give, or why can't you remember what you did yesterday? And, it has a huge impact on women in the workplace, because a lot of it really comes down to that not understanding what it is that they're going through, and not understanding that this is actually part of perimenopause. And as troubling as it is, it's very natural. So I'm a big believer that level of acceptance is really important. So, education with acceptance, and just knowing that, okay, it's a phase that I'm going through, and this is where I'm at. Now, what do I need to support myself to, feel confident, or, boost my confidence as I navigate through this phase of life? And, one of the things I very much talk about is, knowing and coming back to yourself. So in particular, knowing your values, even using your character strengths as well. And just, being aware of who you are and what lights you up, and nurturing. And, I really liken life phases that we go through as personal development tools. And I know it could be very challenging in the process of, and there's no way we would even look at that as a personal development tool, but it really is. And every day is a learning and is a lesson. And it's like, well, what can I take from this? How can I use this and evolve and grow?
Definitely. Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. So, and because you work a lot with businesses, don't you, in helping them to develop some policies around supporting women in going through this stage, which maybe it was on your podcast. I did hear a fact about what the percentage is at the moment within Australian workforce. Maybe it was on your podcast. Do you know off the top of your head what the percentage is of going through perimenopause within the Australian workforce?
Yeah, so I think at the moment, just trying to refresh my memory, I think there's about 1 million women who are going through perimenopause right now. And that's really looking at that 40 plus age range. And, that age range, 40 plus, and when you look at the women's life cycle of their career, that is the phase of life where women are ready to come back into their careers after, caring for kids or even caring for elderly parents. And, they're ready to build on the foundations that they've set prior to, and ready to really just come in, guns blazing. And it starts off really great. And then, those perimenopause symptoms can really wreak havoc. But it's a fair chunk of the Australian workforce who are, very close to perimenopause or right through perimenopause.
Yeah, yeah. So do you have some tips around how people can support themselves if they're going through this stage?
Yeah, so obviously education is the first step, I really believe. And a lot of the work that we do in workplaces is very much about educating, the individual woman, but also educating, the wider community as well, both men and women. We all need to understand this phase of life. So that's a real key step. And getting education sources from different areas. Of course, we can go to our local GP, but we hear, stories that, women still aren't getting the information that they need from their GP. So where can you gather the information from? From podcasts, from books, speaking to friends and family, and, learning about past experiences and the experiences of others too. And that probably leads me on to my next one, is opening up conversations. And of course, it's not about, delving into the nitty gritty, and you get to be as open or as private as you want to be, but at least fostering that conversation. Women always talk about how isolated they feel through this phase of life. And the only way to break that isolation is to really start, breaking down the barriers to that communication.
Yeah.
And then the other key tip for me is really around, using your body to support you. I believe that we are equipped with internal resources, and we've got a bit of a toolkit here that we can access. And, it's starts from the mind to the heart to the gut. And this is my yoga and meditation coming out. But when we can really connect to ourselves, using our intuition, having those moments of stillness or white space throughout our day where we can be present with what we're feeling at any moment, recognizing triggers, things that trigger stress in us, or, when we're not feeling so great, so that we can then, identify that and look at, okay, this is what I need right now. And what I need right now is to just rest, or what I need actually is to reach out to someone and I just need to have a conversation with them, or I need to, make myself a smoothie because that's what makes me feel good, or go out for a walk, or go to the gym. We don't listen to our bodies enough. And, that comes from societal pressures of go, 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 busy, busy, busy. So that stillness, the benefits are just, incredible for us.
Which I'm sure you're the same as me, like that yoga, it's such an empowering thing that allows, like, the feedback I get from women who attend is that later on when they're at home and they actually then feeling the stress, they recognize it. Whereas previously, when they weren't really tuned into their body, they were tuned straight into their head. They never realized that they were in that stress state. And they're like, now I notice when my shoulders go up. I notice when my head, I'm frowning my brow, or I'm clenching my jaw because of yoga and having that, education throughout a class when you're doing it. It's so subtle, but it's just enough, isn't it?
It is, and it's training the brain, isn't it, to have that awareness that, you acknowledge the sensations in your body. And, what I love teaching clients is, gathering your toolkit whilst you're on the mat so that you can use it when you're off the mat and out in your daily life. And you might feel, during a class that maybe you're not getting, so much from it. And particularly in those early days of, when you're beginning your yoga practice, you sort of think, oh, am I getting anything from this? But it's those little aha moments that you have off the mat, and they're just, wow, right, okay, now I see it's all forming together.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. So how can people find you, and tell us about the podcast as well?
Yes, so we have Peri Menopause Power podcast, and essentially it is Lisa and I, we have episodes where we're talking and really honing in on some of those lifestyle skills and strategies that women can use to support themselves. Plus we have amazing guests and other women who are, either leading into or going through perimenopause right now, sharing their own story and their own strategies for how they've transitioned through that phase of life. And then, you can access us at ownyourhealthco.com.au, or we're on Instagram and Facebook at Own Your Health Co as well.
Thank you so much. Thanks so much for your time and also for all your knowledge as well, Natalie.
Thank you so much, Narelle. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much for joining me for today's Simply Happy conversation. If you'd like to reduce your stress, improve your mood, and support your immune system, then join me for an introduction to Yin and Nidra Yoga. Over 5 short 10-minute online lessons, you'll start to feel calmer and more rested. Head to simplyhappy.com.au in the resources section and start today.